goat tied to a stake in the yard. The Rickenbackers kept Nanny and some other goats for milk. They used goat's milk for drinking and cooking and sold some in their neighborhood in Columbus, Ohio. Eddie rushed up the 3 steps of the back porch of the small Rickenbacker home. He burst into the large kitchen, the only room on the first floor except a bedroom. Upstairs there were 2 bedrooms where all the older children slept. By now it was time for supper. Inside the kitchen, Mama was cooking food on the stove and setting the table. She looked at Eddie and cried, "Ach, there you are. Where have you been? It's time to take care of the goats." Eddie's parents, William and Elizabeth Rickenbacker, had come from Switzerland. They spoke German in their home, and so did their children. 2 of the other children were older and 2 younger than Eddie. The 2 older children were Mary, who helped with many household duties, and William, whom everybody called Bill. Emma was 5 years old, and Louis was a baby. "I've been with Big John at the blacksmith shop," he said. "Someday when I get a little older, he's going to let me use his forge." "I worry about you going over there," said Mama. "You could get hurt or burned." "Oh, no, Mama," answered Eddie. "I'm always very careful. Big John watches me, and I've learned a lot about his work." "Huh," teased Bill, who had just come in from the yard. "Someday when you grow up, you'll be a genius." Mary and Mama laughed, and Eddie felt hurt. Quickly he pulled a cap over his reddish hair and ran out to the barn to look after the goats. "Bring Mama an egg for the baby," Mary called after him. "All right," Eddie yelled back. He carried armfuls of hay for several goats in a pen near the barn, and an armful for Nanny, still tied in the yard. She playfully nudged him and bleated out her thanks for the hay. Next, Eddie went to their cellar in the backyard to get the egg for the baby. This cellar was actually a huge hogshead, a kind of barrel, which his father had buried in the ground. It was filled with fruits, vegetables, eggs, and meat, all neatly packed on shelves. The eggs were stored in a jar with a white liquid called water glass around them to keep them from spoiling. Eddie removed the lid from the top of the cellar and climbed down a ladder inside. He trembled with fear because it was dark down in the cellar. Cautiously, he reached into the crock, pulled out an egg, and put it into his pocket. Then he wiped the water glass off on his overalls and climbed back up the ladder to the outside. When he bent over to pull the heavy lid back over the cellar, he suddenly heard the sound of hoofbeats. Wham! He went sprawling on the ground. He looked up and saw Nanny calmly walking away. At once he thought of the egg in his sweater pocket. Cautiously he reached in his hand and pulled it out, all messy from the broken egg. Angrily he turned to Nanny and shouted, "You mean old goat! I'll get even with you!" By now Papa was home from work, and all the members of the family ate supper together. After they finished, Mama sent Bill to get the big family Bible, which was printed in German. Every night after supper she sat at the table and read a few chapters by the light of a kerosene lamp. Then she explained the meaning of what she had read and asked the children to try to lead good lives. By now the fire in the kitchen stove, which furnished heat for the entire house, was burning low. Mama turned to her husband and said, "William, I need more coal for the cook stove. Our supply is almost gone." Papa rubbed his black mustache nervously and sighed heavily. "Oh my," he said, "I won't have time tomorrow to get any more coal because I've taken a new job. In the morning I'll have to leave early to start pouring concrete." "Don't worry, Mama," interrupted Bill. "Tomorrow is Saturday and I won't have to go to school. Eddie and I will go to the railroad tracks and pick up some chunks of coal along the tracks." "Sure," added Eddie eagerly. He hoped that he would get a chance to see Big John again. The next morning Bill and Eddie pushed a squeaky wheelbarrow to the railroad tracks. They walked along the tracks and picked up chunks of coal which had rolled off the open coal cars. They played a game to see who could find the most coal. Suddenly Bill noticed a switch engine and coal tender coming towards them. "Look out, Eddie!" he called. Eddie stepped back, but noticed that the engine and tender were barely moving. Suddenly he was tempted to jump on and take a ride. Happily he ran out and climbed on the back.